and for the Buffalo Bills, and of course the Orioles trying to claw and scratch and hang out, but other things happening around here sports-wise, and certainly in the summertime, and we saw PGA last weekend, a lot of folks going out and hitting golf balls. I see it on my timeline all the time. We got a lot of tournaments coming up and charity tournaments and whatnot, including ours here for There Goes My Hero next month, along with Steve DeCastro and our friends over at Roost Chris. You can throw me a note for more information on that. Meanwhile, we're going to talk some golf right now. Robert Kennedy is our pal. He is Buckets and Birds out on Twitter if you want to follow along. Also down at Compass Point, where he throws parties and tournaments and does things like that down there near funky Pasadena. We welcome him back onto the program. It's a light week here at golf, right? I mean, I guess everybody gearing up for FedEx, but a sort of a quiet weekend. But the golf nerds had Solheim as well as the Wyndham, right?
Exactly. It was a good week for the women's, and I'm not sure if that was done intentionally or not for the LPGA. They scheduled the Solheim Cup this past weekend, where it was the PGA was kind of PGA Tour playing out the string with its regular season before the playoffs began. So the American ladies took center stage against the European ladies in the Solheim Cup, which is their version of the men's Ryder Cup, and the U.S. had dominated it the last 5 of the last 7 years, and they kind of won easily again this weekend. It wasn't anything dramatic, but there was some good golf on Sunday played. One of the most exciting matches was Lexi Thompson, who, the U.S. highest-ranked player, number 2 in the world, had gone down four holes after the first 4 and looked like she was just about to get run off the course. And she rallied by shooting, I think, 8 under on the back 9, and then ended up getting a half in her match. And they each won 5 points on Sunday, each team. So the U.S. won by 5 points. It wasn't dramatic, but it was, some good golf to watch. It was better than watching the Wyndham, which really didn't mean a whole lot. Some players played their way into the top 125, and will advance.
Sort of like AAA, right? That thing on the back end of the previous week, right?
Exactly. Henrik Stenson was the winner, and he obviously is a big name, and he's won a major championship, and so he actually held off one of the younger guns. And
well, the guys like it because it's right down the road from Charlotte, too. So if you want to hang out, play another weekend of golf, try to go win some money, they make it easy for you, right? It's not like it was in Portland or something, right?
Sure enough, yep, just right up the road. So, a few of the people that had played the PGA that weren't going to be in the playoffs played, and a few did play it for a tune-up. So made for a nice, convenient trip, and this week they'll make their way up to just outside New York City and begin the playoffs with up there that begin this Thursday.
Well, give me a little lowdown on what's going on here this weekend, and tell me where we are with Rory McIlroy as well.
Well, it appears he's going to play this week. The first weekend he's talked a lot about needing some time for his ribs to heal and everything. But again, he also, I think, really means a lot to him to win the FedEx Cup again and defend it.
There's a lot of money involved here too. Let's the horses go to post, right? I mean, literally, this is big money this weekend. As much as it's not like a major or whatever, there's a ton of dough there.
Oh, sure, yeah, it's $1.5 million to the first place, right around that amount, and then of course the $10 million payoff at the end for the FedEx Cup champion. So yeah, it's definitely not pennies. These guys, are playing for a lot every week, and you can never have enough. And also for the pride, I think he's also at the point where he's got these other guys nipping at his heels. He's heard the talk of Jordan Spieth, who now has 3 majors, only being a major behind him, and there's definitely some ego and pride in that as far as wanting to retain the. Probably the best young player, and he's not ranked number 1 in the world right now. That's Dustin Johnson, who only has 1 major. But once Spieth won the British Open a couple weeks back, last month, there began talk, he's got 3 now. He's, right up there with Rory, and the talk of who the most dominant player and who that next dominant player is going to be. Is it going to be Rory, or is it going to be Jordan? So I think there's definitely a factor there of him wanting to say, not lose any ground there, and maybe cap off the year with the FedEx Championship.
You talk about golf in New York City, and look, I mean, horse racing comes in with Belmont. The Big Ten. I mean, I've talked a lot of basketball, and I know you from the world of basketball. This week I was chatting with Bruce Posner and some of the folks, Don Marcus last week, about the Terps. The Big Ten tournament is at Madison Square Garden next year. Boy, there's something about New York that you have to rub up against it, right? And NASCAR tries to Watkins Glen, and when you come near New York, it's an important week. Quite frankly, it gets a lot of the suits out, right, to be involved in this. And I know they've got Yankee Stadium involved and McElroy and Charities. This is a big, big week for a lot of golfers to sort of go doff their cap somewhere near, the World Trade Center or Manhattan, because a lot of the money emanates out of there for golf.
Sure, yeah. Anytime you are doing something in New York, it's a big-time event. And, as you mentioned, it'll bring out New York is such a unique place. It'll not only bring out the top, dollar corporate sponsors, but it'll bring out the Joes and the Vinnies from the delis and everything. I mean, like them or love them, New York has some of the most passionate sports fans in the nation. And they love their golf up there. Every time there's a major event, whether it's at Bethpage Black or Liberty National or any of the courses up there, the U.S. Open will be back there next summer, which will be exciting. I expect.
But New York's important. I mean, they have to keep it on the rotation, right? I mean, literally.
One way or another, they find a reason to go there every year. Seemingly there isn't a regular scheduled tour event there each year, but they've been rotating the playoffs through there. They've been rotating the majors through there with Bethpage and Shinnecock and Winged Foot. So every year they find a reason to go to New York, and of course, why wouldn't you? It supports it. Like I said, the passionate, great fans up there, the TV ratings, just about everything about New York. Like you said, they tie into Yankee stadiums and the other sports. It's a big time event, and kicking off the playoffs, 30 miles from the downtown New York City. It's sure to be a big week.
Robert Kennedy is our pal. He is Buckets and Birds. We chat golf once a week. He does it down at Compass Point. Tell everybody what you do down there and about the events. And I want to get back on. I want to talk a little bit more about the tour.
Sure. We special events down there is what we do really well. I like to think. I'm a little bit partial, but we do outings, corporate charity outings. We do probably close to 150 of those a year. We have 36 holes, so we pretty much have one running, if not every day of the week, pretty close to every day of the week. And, it's a great way for companies that want to have their charity outing and come out and raise funds for their organization or the cause that they're supporting. And then beyond that, we have a lot of fun events. Usually we try to do at least one event a month that we sponsor to change things up, whether it's in October, we're going to have the Craft Beer Open, where we'll have Dogfish and a lot of the other breweries out serving beer on the course as the players come through.
Is there ever beer not served on the course? I'm just wondering.
That pretty much is always
no course I want to be associated with, that's for sure.
Exactly. Exactly. But this case, it'll be some of the special breweries and everything. And Friday, this 25th of August, we have the night golf coming up, where 18 holes, 9 of it will be played before dark and dinner. Then you go back out and play the last 9 holes in dark. So that may actually help some people's games or not. That remains to be seen.
Depends how much you drink at dinner.
Exactly. And so that'll be fun. And then
that's one of the hardest parts of me with golf is I can't take it seriously enough to be competitive, Like, it's kind of like bowling. I was more competitive when I was 12. Now I just want to bowl,
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. It's like a former pro that I used to know very well in the area had a saying as he sent every group out. He says, if you play well, play fast. If you play poorly, play faster. And
bowling affected my mood in my teens when I was on a Saturday. You had a poor morning at the lanes; it wrecked the afternoon. You know what I mean? It set the whole mojo for the day. I can't have that at this age. I got enough problems.
I think at any age, when your days get off to a bad start, they just seem to go downhill from there. And, I've experienced a few of those, more than my fair share that I care to admit. But being on the golf course, since we're not making our living at it, is never a bad thing. I always try to remind myself, whether, I'm trying to beat my best personal round or somehow break 100, I realize I'm out on the course and I should be having fun. And, that's what it's all about at our level, and these guys that are playing on the tour and everything that we talk about every week.
Get out there and hack it. That's what I can say, man. Compass Point, he is Robert Kennedy. Buckets and Birds, the way to find him on Twitter. Hey, I want to go backwards to the beginning of this whole thing. We're talking about the ladies. Dude, is it just me? And maybe it's because I worked at the Evening Sun and the News American back in the 80s and back in the era of newspapers and putting the agate page together and the scoreboard page, which is what I did for a living through most of my restless youth. Every Sunday I would have the LPGA there. There'd be a story. You'd be familiar with the Nancy Meltons, Lopez's, all of the names that would be out there. It feels to me like the ladies' tours just like disappeared, much more so than, let's say, women's tennis, which is a little bit more front and center given the star power of it all.
It's a good analogy, and I think a lot of that is due to the emergence of the Korean women golfers over the last 5 to 10 years. They've really become dominant in the game, and if you were to look at the top golfers in the world, the top 20 Rolex rankings for the women's, you're going to see, I think, 10 or 12 of them are Korean players. You only find, I think, one American in the top 10.
It must be big money over there, right? I mean, it must just be an incredibly dominant thing in their culture, right?
It is, and it's a very competitive culture, and it's a very competitive youth programs that they have over there to get them. I mean, and also they have the means and everything that they send a lot of their younger players to some of these American academies, like the IMG Academy, which you probably know from your tennis days.
Sure, absolutely.
Down in Florida, and it's as big a golf academy now as it was a tennis and baseball academy in the years past. And so a lot of the foreign players, and specifically from Korea, are going there and honing their game, and then staying here to play golf. So the Americans, we're divided by so many things, but there's the soccer, there's the lacrosse, both of those have just become, but the, youth sports in the last 10, 15 years have become such big sports.
Not to mention softball, volleyball. Women play a variety of sports that 40 years ago, I guess when you talk about the golfers that I grew up with in the 80s, they were growing up in the 60s and early 70s. It was kind of golf and tennis is what, more so than soccer, more so than softball on a Title IX or getting scholarships or doing those type of things. The world has grown, especially around here with lacrosse, no doubt about it.
Absolutely. There's just so much, to compete for it. And I think, there is a really good mixture of some young American golfers right now. And the thing about the Solheim Cup, from what I saw on TV Sunday when I watched it, it was funny. There was a different sound of the crowd when you're watching the men's Ryder Cups, the roars were just that. They were, loud eruption roars that you'd hear at Augusta, U.S. Open, anything like that. Watching this Solheim Cup, what you picked up on sound was a lot, almost, this may be a weird analogy, but almost like a Justin Timberlake concert. The screams were a lot younger and higher pitched.
Shrieky, so more like a Beatles show.
Yes, so that indicates that a lot of the gallery was probably young girls and teenage girls that their fathers and mothers are taking them out there, and that was their exposure to it, which is, a good thing. And there's a lot of good role models on both sides, the European and the Americans that were out there. And so, things like this that happen every 2 years, can only spike the interest of it. We see it. We do junior camps at the golf course during the summer. We pretty much have one every week, and there's a good amount of young girls that are showing. It's not just the 8 and 9-year-old boys. It's not quite a 50-50 mix, but I bet it's a 30-70, 60-40 mix. So, there definitely is interest out there of the younger girls and everything to get involved with it. And the Americans have lacked in it in the last several years, and they come out of college, and it's a different route to the LPGA than it is for men's. The men's have the qualifying tours, the web.com, the Q schools, the colleges. The women's pretty much just have college. They don't have the developmental tours as they do have one. They don't have as many as the men do. So it's a little bit different route to get to the LPGA Tour than it is to the PGA Tour. So it's a little bit harder for them. But still, nonetheless, it made for some entertaining viewing this past weekend. And anytime the USA is winning something, people here are going to get behind it and get interested in it. And I think that was the case Sunday.
Well, you know what, man? This is why I bring you on. I learn things like that. He is Robert Kennedy, Buckets and Birds. Does golf sales for a living down there at Compass Point. Keeps us company around here, chatting some golf and talking some golf as we move to New York and FedEx coverage this week. You can find him at Buckets and Birds. We'll see you next week, Robert. Great having you on, man.
Thanks, Lester. Talk to you then. Have a good week.
I'm going to get some buckets out of him soon, too, not just the Birds, as he's been a long-time CAA beat writer and a local college basketball guy as well as we get into basketball season, because I know we've talked some Terps here and some Big Ten this week with the schedule coming out and the Syracuses and the Butlers and whatnot's going on with the Terps. You can find me out in the Bahia Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear from wherever you are. Big thanks to our friends at BahiaToyota.com for always sponsoring that and making all of our stuff available to you. I will be available in London on the Saturday before the Ravens game. We are doing a purple sky cable car cruise. Yeah, something like that. Over the Skyway to the O2 Arena. We're going to party over there. We got a big party at the Fox at XL on Saturday from 11 to about 3 o'clock, 2:52. We're going to do a little purple march down to the cable cars and then go over and have a pint or two, as they say. Maybe some fish and chips and some soccer and some pubs and just some good times. We're going over to London. If you're going, we'd love to see you over there. We are planning an all-day Saturday party. It's free. It's easy. It's right off the tube. Throw me a note, nasty@WNST.net. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. And don't forget, of course, our morning newspaper ships to your email inbox each and every morning at 7 a.m. That's all powered up by Planet Fitness at planetfitness.com, and it's absolutely free to get our newspaper, and Planet Fitness is always $10 a month to get you in the best shape of your life, guarantee. Get a little bit of inspiration out there at planetoftriumphs.com. Go check out that website. Last but never least, any breaking news happens first on our WNST tech service. That's all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Dennis will be here on Thursday, driving you home, getting you ready for more fake football. Just what we all need around here. It is the SSV on WNST, heard from 3 until 5 on Thursday. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.